Do
It
do do.
I keep forgetting to edit out the Filmora Wondershare tag
Every
at the
single
end of
week.
the.
Don't you have to
mean,
pay to edit it out?
I have paid for. I renewed my Filmora Wondershare account, and I still keep forgetting to edit the thing out. This is something that I don't know if I want to share. This is like a trade secret, but I made TV commercials for the local Spectrum TV system for a local restaurant using nothing but Filmora, Wondershare, and a Mevo Cam. So you can actually make TV quality commercials using Filmora Wondershare because I did it for a couple of years. So there's that. Total investment in software, $40 instead of the $1,000 or so dollars for Premiere. So also the learning curve on Adobe Premiere is nuts. Like you can't even do simple things easily in Adobe Premiere without knowing the whole system. So anyway, there's a little of that kind of talk for you there. Sam, while I'm chit-chatting about this, that, and the other, can you pull up the information about our friend Cesar and his wonderful sponsors? Because I
can.
Also didn't get there. I want to make sure I mention our friend Kelly Smith Realtor. She is sponsoring our show. We thank her for her generosity in making sure that we can do things like pay for Filmora Wondershare, so we don't have to have a watermark on our intro. Thank you, Kelly, for your time and attention on that. I also want to remind you, Kelly Smith Realtor, Kelly Smith FL Realtor is on TikTok, and she actually does TikToks not only of the houses that she has on the market, but little 30 and 60-second informational pieces about things you should know if you're considering selling or buying a house. And she is really, really invested in this. She does a fantastic job. She actually has consulted with Mishi and I, because we talk about sometimes we fantasize about running away to a blue state. And she's helped us with figuring out how we would accomplish that. What we would need to do with this house in order to make it ready for sale and get our best deal. So thank you, Kelly Smith. I also want to thank is the word I was looking for there. Our Patreon supporters, there are now 7 of you. We're very excited. Thank you very much for your contributions. We're not rich, but we
grifted everyone.
That's right. It's the big $70 a month podcast grift. Boy, we're killing it.
We did it.
Just wait till they give us a local radio show. Then we'll be cooking with real gas.
We're talking about big money and who's really supporting us. Let's shift on over to the Zeha Law Firm. So CJ Zeha is one of the absolute best personal injury attorneys in the state of Florida. He has taken many, many cases with a wide range of topics, from auto accidents to people that have even been injured by the police or injured on the job. And he wins. He wins, and he supports local causes while he's doing it. He's a great guy. Please support him. He is supporting us, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, we do. And we had a chat with CJ this week. Our friend CJ is really deeply embedded in the community in Manatee County, does a lot of great political and community work. And my friend Sam Ronan will tell you those are the same thing, that doing the work to make your community better is political. Doing the work in politics in your community is making it better. And so we really value and honor that kind of local effort. And we're really proud that CJ is part of our little, I don't know, do we want to call ourselves a squad? Are we that?
It's a family. We're a family here.
We are a family. And in fact, the first time I got to meet CJ was hanging out with his family for the baby's first birthday. Yeah. So that's a good thing. So thank you to all of you who are contributing to making this machine go down the road. It's paying off. Like we've had an impact. For instance, people showed up at the Newport Richey City Council meeting 2 weeks ago, and and we may have moved the ball on at least getting rid of what we perceive as one of the two big problems in city management in the city of Newport Richey, that being the city attorney. They were set to renew his contract for another year, and they decided to put a pin in that and table it, because information came to light during the course of the meeting that he was, we told the story about the woman whose house they invaded with the wrong kind of warrant, and lied about what they needed to do to get that warrant. And while they were in there, and while they were making Anne Frank jokes in a Jewish woman's house, the city manager was digging through her trash. Like you do when you're, he wasn't in there going, "Come on, guys, let's not make any Nazi jokes." No, he was outside digging around in her trash, and there is video evidence of this. And based on that, one of the city council people said, maybe we should hold off and table this. Since that's happened, we've got the word that this is next Tuesday evening, which is the 6th of September. There is a regular city council meeting at 7:00, at which we will all show back up to make sure that they know we haven't forgotten, that we challenge them to make a public statement that anti-Semitism and racism are the same thing, but not welcome among city employees doing their job, and there will be consequences. We don't know that they'll act on that, but they've added a 6 p.m. special meeting before the regular city council meeting. So I kind of have a feeling that that might mean, I think Sam froze up on us again. No, he's moving. There I saw something moving.
I'm tearing out, man. I got to make sure everyone's watching.
You went into that like, what was the old, the guys that made Airplane made a cop show for a while. And
yeah,
at the end of every show, everybody would freeze, and then somebody would walk through the back of the frame or something. Anyway, so thank you to everybody that showed up. It wasn't just us. I want to make sure to say that there are people that were way out in front of this problem way before we were, and they got the ball rolling. We showed up though, and we chastised them, and we spoke to them directly, and you should do that. And I got to tell you, I've done it dozens of times, and I still you can hear it in my voice. If you were to go watch the city council meeting video, my voice was quavering. It's never easy to stand up in front of people in authority and tell them they're full of shit and they should get their act together. But we can do that. But
it never gets easier. It really never gets easier.
But it's fulfilling when something happens, when you see an outcome that you worked for and spoke on. That's pretty cool. And that's the only way, by the way, to get them to do anything is to challenge them publicly and make them answer you publicly. Y'all may recall we had an activist named Julia on our show a couple of weeks ago talking about this very issue. And Julia got a call from one of the city council people saying, "Gosh, why don't you just sit down with the city manager and talk this out?" And she said, "Have you not been listening? Because what we know will happen is we'll have a conversation with her, and she will promise us everything and say, 'Oh gosh, we didn't know this was happening. We'll fix it right away.' And then nothing will happen. And when we go back and say, 'Why did nothing happen?' They'll say, 'I don't know what you're talking about.'" Right. So if it's not on the record and in public and on video and part of a city council meeting, they can deny that they spoke to anybody about it. And we cannot let them have that latitude. It's why our Pasco County government is so messed up, is because nobody really challenges them publicly to change things. And they don't. And they continue to drive us into the ground to the benefit of developers and condo associations. So as long as we let that happen, it will continue to happen. So show up and speak and impact your local government. And when you find out that you can impact it from there, maybe you'll decide to run. And at that point, we can have a whole different conversation about how to piss off the powers that be. Always a great time. So anyway, that's just my little, I got to go on I'm so local Pasco, so I have to go on a little Newport Richey rant or Pasco County rant as warranted in every episode. Harrison, what did you get up to in the primary cycle?
Oh, God. So Sam and I do very similar work. We both have been doing a voter registration campaign in Hillsborough and Pinellas County. That's been going pretty good recently, even though the primary just passed, but we've been having pretty good traction, I guess. It's a lot of students that we're signing up, though. That's something I've noticed.
Yeah.
So are you seeing the nationally reported trend that it is women voting more than men? Are you seeing that at all? Because that's what I'm hearing from other places. No.
I honestly pay more attention to age, though. Like I noticed in Texas, there was some statistic about like at least a quarter of the newly registered voters this year are under 25.
Right.
Which I'm like, oh yeah, well that makes sense because of what's going on over there. But I think just in general, there's this wave of younger generations registering to vote. So I think that's pretty
So
cool.
what's exciting them? What's saying, hell yeah, I want to sign that. Give it to me.
The governor election, at least down here.
Okay.
We've been talking to people about there because there's no local elections this year in Pinellas that I'm aware of. I know Hillsborough.
Oh yeah, there
There
are.
is.
There's Janet Save the
Oh, wait,
Planet.
no, no,
Vote
no.
Janet Save the
Oh, yeah.
Planet. So
We're gonna
No,
talk
no,
about
I
a
mean for
couple
like
of
I
them.
mean for like municipal.
Okay.
Like, I
Yes,
know there's
there
like
are.
House coming.
We got a
up.
couple
There
county
is.
seats, man.
Oh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
See, I'm a
Don't worry,
Hillsborough
we're gonna
person.
talk
I'm
about
not-
it.
Okay,
today.
but in Harrison's defense, I can see that people, this is the way it is. People kind of register and act on the top of the ticket, and then they get
Yeah.
more active
Mhm.
down ticket as they learn more about it,
Right.
just how deep the
Yeah.
fuck up it this is.
Yeah.
And even like the whole thing of like I'm a Hillsborough person. I don't really know,
Right.
too much about what's going on in Pinellas. But like the people that I've talked to in Hillsborough, there's all kinds of like county elections going on right now. There's what happened with Andrew Warren when he got suspended. That was a
Oh, yeah.
big, pivotal moment for people. So on the Hillsborough side of the bridge, there is that going on.
Well, and since then, and Lori Bersani brought this up in the comments, and I'm pretty sure Sam has some information on this, but
Yeah.
what's going to happen with the school board suspensions and other elected officials being taken out? Can a governor actually do that? We'll talk more about that as we go. But I'm interested. You're seeing a pretty good response out there registering voters now,
Mm-hmm.
and you know who votes every
Much.
election? Newly
votes?
registered voters. That's who votes.
Exactly.
They haven't gotten disgusted or pissed off at the process yet. They are registering because they intend to vote in the upcoming election.
Also, I'm so sorry if you can hear my dogs.
Okay.
We like dogs.
They are
We're dog
we
friendly.
love
Doggish right now.
Sagan, you want to be on the show, man? You want to be on TV? No, he doesn't want to be on
Probably.
TV.
He's like, no, screw that.
Yeah,
I'm famous on Twitter. I don't need to be on your stupid show. That's what he's
Exactly.
saying.
Oh my god.
exactly.
All right. So Sam, are you seeing the same thing though? Are you when you're out there doing voter reg? Are you seeing?
I mean, to a certain extent, especially now that the schools are back, we're definitely seeing a lot more people that are interested in being engaged. This year, more than most, the trick that you always do when you're doing voter registration on a college campus is, hey, don't you want to be registered where you live? And the thing is that never worked. And now it's really working. Now people are, I say people, the kids are much more conscious of there's people here that are going to have a say over my body, the water I drink, my housing costs, because not all of them are living in dorms. And
Right.
That's new. That's new. The 2004, 2005 kids, they are much more conscious of that, which if you were curious, that
Wait,
is
kids that were born in 2004 are old enough to vote?
yes,
Yeah.
Greg.
I have a headache.
Yeah.
They just
Most of the
age.
people I sign up are 2004, 2005.
Wow.
You can pre-register at 16. So, do the math. Do the math on that one. If you're
Yeah.
16
When
years
somebody
old,
says
you're
30 years ago, I'm like, oh, 1979.
Right. 30 years ago was me. I happened 30 years ago.
Oh, God.
It's just it's
Oh.
me, the Gulf War, Nirvana, and
My kids.
You know.
Yeah, I get it.
yeah.
All right. So that's good news to me. That feels like, the work that, and I don't want to throw anybody who's done the work in the past under the bus here. It's a long grinding fight, and it will always be. There's never going to be I think the lesson we learned from the Obama administration was we can't take our foot off the gas even when we win something big. That while we did that, lots of other stuff at the state and local level fell through the cracks and got ignored, and now we're paying a price for that. That lack of
Hubris.
stick-to-itiveness. Yeah.
Hubris. Yeah.
We fixed racism.
We fixed racism.
Oh my
We
God.
fixed
It turns out,
healthcare.
we
we
fixed
fixed
foreign wars.
How did we do these things? How did we do these?
Drone strikes.
Yes, that's pretty much.
Oh my god. Anyway, I
Yeah.
think also it's important to mention the VR space, I guess, is always shifting too. So now we have to adapt to this one thing that I believe the governor wants to do, which is have people re-register every cycle.
Yes.
Um,
that is his goal.
So if you register now, you probably have to register next cycle unless a new governor is put into office. But I mean, it's never really static. What worked last year for us in voter reg is not necessarily going to work this year. So you have to always be coming up with new, strategies to outreach to people. So that
Right.
helped when we were mentioning hey, they've been taking people off voter rolls and not saying anything because it's Florida being Florida.
Yeah.
But that wasn't something we were doing last year.
We didn't
Well,
have to.
and
Yeah.
maybe there's that same kind of lesson. Like we kind of tend to think of we're going to fix the Trump problem and then everything will be okay. But what we're looking at is a governor that we keep saying, can he do that? Can he do that? Which is exactly what we said about Trump when he started doing shitty things that were
Right.
probably illegal. Like this thing with let's talk about that for a minute. The removal of the
Sure.
state attorney and the 3 school board members. Can he do
Yeah.
that? Well,
Yes.
we're going to find out. We're going to find out in court whether or not he can do that. But it makes a big
He
splash,
can.
and it can he make it stick? Right? Can he justify
Well,
that?
Well, I mean, here's my thing. Here's my take on this. Because, remember, I'm on the local board at the ACLU. So anytime
Okay.
anything happens involving the law, I have a million qualified lawyers like James Shaw, Gretchen
Right.
Cothran, who definitely deserve your business if you need a lawyer. And they just know this shit. So the problem is we do have a lot of laws and, oh God, I'm blanking on the other word for it. It's semantics. But
So
we
you
have
know a
parts
lot
of-
of law talking guys.
we have parts of the state constitution that genuinely do allow this shit and just wasn't being used because it seemed like a dick move. I'm dead serious.
Tradition.
It
Tradition.
truly
Well,
comes
it-
down to like, well, no one would just do that, right?
Right.
And Ron DeSantis is at
That's
a point where he's
crazy.
like, no, I will do that. I will do that because it is so ambiguous what it really means to need to remove someone on the municipal level because of a dereliction of duty or that they've done something corrupt. What does that really mean in a legal sense? It's
Right.
debatable, and he's willing to debate it. Now, the debate is the part that we're going to fight over in court. The debate is the part that Andrew Warren is going to fight over in court.
Right.
But just like in the bare bones sense, can he do it? Yeah, it's right there.
Well,
Anyone could
didn't
have.
he have something? Didn't he have something overturned this week in court where he made an action and now they've decided no? An appeals court said you can't do that. That's not within your purview. The problem is he gets a lot of credit for it with the angry gun-toting knucklehead crowd, and they think that happened, even
Right.
though it got taken back in court. Right. So but my point in bringing that up was we're watching
Yeah.
a governor who acts in the same way as the former president did, which is
Right.
do something, make a huge ruckus, and live on it for 10 years, even after it gets reversed by a court. Right. So that's why we need to pay attention below the national level. We can't let Trump distract us from the things that are happening in our space right now.
Yeah.
This is a government. Look, did he remove any Republicans from the Broward County School Board?
Well, school board is technically
Oh,
nonpartisan.
nonpartisan, right?
Yeah, I bring up this article from the Miami
Okay.
Herald just to kind of get into some of why it's so complicated. And I have Dave Coleman's comment up because this has been a very complicated issue. The Broward County situation is not quite as simple as Andrew Warren, where it was very much clear that it was retaliation. A
Right.
grand jury recommended that these school members be removed from office because of dereliction of duty, because of corruption charges involving the Parkland massacre, where they had, I believe there were issues like fire alarm systems that hadn't been renewed properly, inspected properly. There were a lot of costs being cut. Okay, there were a lot of corners being cut there. So technically, they should have been removed. The problem is that DeSantis immediately appointed his own people, which again is within
It's his purview. Yeah.
his rights, essentially. But we know now, because of what he did with Andrew Warren, what this is. We know what this is because we have the context. But without the context, this is technically all above water, perfectly legal. That's the problem that we're having. Now, 2 of them had chosen not to seek re-election this year anyway. And then another one, I believe, actually does have a runoff election coming up.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's complicated. It's messy.
Right. And I, honestly,
lot.
I haven't dived into that story this week, but it just feels to me like this is a governor who is now going to say any election he doesn't like.
Right.
He's going
Right.
to just overturn if he has the power to do so. For
Right.
instance, I'll bet you if you did a spot audit of, I don't know, 20 counties, public school systems, and
Yeah.
high schools, you would find exactly the same number of alarms that weren't repaired and doors that weren't secured, and
Right.
and you know and campus law enforcement officers who were not on the job, as you found at Marjorie Stoneman. Like, I don't think that was a specifically Broward County issue. I think because of funding cuts throughout the state in education, the migration of vast amounts of money away from public schools into private charter and or Christian schools, you'd find the same thing, that the county systems can't keep up with the growth in the state. The budget should be growing, not shrinking, et cetera, et cetera. It feels to me like, yeah, he's going to be able to defend that one, maybe, but don't be surprised if it happens in your county. But it's not going to happen in like Lee County. It's not going to happen in Okaloosa County. It's only going to happen in places like Hillsborough or Orange or Duval. That's where that's going to happen, because that's where Democrats have control of those boards.
Right.
So,
Can Andrew Warren run again for re-election?
That's a good question, actually.
Because he got elected like twice, right? I mean, there was
Right.
like, even with all the technicalities or whatever, there was still like a massive like response to him being
I
suspended.
don't believe he can get reelected to state attorney, but he's free to run for some kind of other office. The problem is now we realize that the governor can yank anything on the municipal level. I mean, he can yank a mayor, he can yank a city council person, he can yank a state attorney. Rick Scott yanked at least one state attorney. It's not totally unprecedented. It's just this is much more of a I'm retaliating preemptively kind of thing. Whereas Aramis Ayala, who's actually running for attorney general, was the person who Rick Scott had yanked back in 2017. And she very specifically said, no, I'm not going to enforce the death penalty. He had a thing. He reacted to a thing. And Ron is, again, being preemptive what he's doing.
Yeah.
right.
But I mean, like, it's not like he doesn't have support. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he got elected twice, if he ran for something, he would probably win. I mean,
I would love to see him run for something. He's got a lot of support
speaking
here.
realistically. Yeah.
Well, maybe if he runs for the state legislature, we have a chance at maybe changing some of the laws over what the governor has control over.
That would be wonderful. I mean, we need more people in the state house and the state senate, but
you can't run for mayor because Bernice, is already.
I mean, if she's not gonna do it, someone's gotta. Greg,
Wait, what is this? If she's not going to do it, I thought we had already had this conversation.
I thought we had to, but I'm not gonna push her. She's gonna go at her own pace when she needs to go.
All right.
But if she is watching this, she should know that everybody here is down.
She should.
Hell yeah.
We love Bernice.
I think it'd be cool.
Dearly.
I would risk a 12th heart attack to knock doors for Bernice for mayor of Tampa.
I feel like that's a bad idea.
I mean,
the energy.
That's a serious offer.
Yeah.
It's a thing that could happen.
So since we're talking about local and municipal elections, we're talking about the school board. Not only do we have exciting local news with the school boards, we got to talk about Ron DeSantis. So it is unprecedented that a governor makes personal endorsements in school board races. And this year he made 30. Guess how many won out of those 30? 20. 21. Wow. So
21?
21. They won their races. I know it was a very confusing sentence. As it came out,
20 of his endorsed candidates won their.
Yeah. So they basically annihilated the Brevard School Board. They annihilated Sarasota, Manatee. They're trying in Pasco. Our friend and Florida for Change endorsed Jim Washington is going to a runoff in November. If you're not familiar, and a lot of people aren't, we have races that get decided at the primary, and those are races that get decided at the primary. But when two people do very well, but nobody makes over 50% of the vote, you're going to a runoff. So they're going to be on the ballot in November. We have a chance to get Jim Washington actually elected, and he's going to need a lot of help because, as we're seeing, DeSantis school board candidates cleaned up. They did really well. They did remarkably well. Even in the places where they lost, they did better than they should have, including in Hillsborough County.
Yeah, listen, the thing that I want to make sure and say about Jim Washington is if you live in my county, if you live in Pasco, if you live in Hernando County, if you live in Pinellas County or Northern Hillsborough, and you're mad as hell about what's happening in these school boards where you're hearing these people say, I'm an Aryan, or, what's wrong with white Christian nationalism? If that bothers you, Jim Washington is your guy, and you can donate, you can volunteer, you can get out for Jim Washington and put him over the top in Pasco County. Being in a runoff, I don't think it's a 50-50 shot that he's going to win that runoff. I think it's less than a 50-50 shot because he doesn't have the name recognition. He's not getting the headlines because he's not out there yelling, I'm an Aryan at fucking candidate
to be clear,
forums.
that guy's not going to runoff. That guy.
No. I get it. But if you're mad about those people running for school board, Jim Washington is someone you could actually donate to today, knock doors for today, and have an impact on a race in a red county. That's where we are. And if you want me to put you in touch with Jim, I will do. If you want me to drive you to his volunteer headquarters, I will do that. I feel very, very strongly that Jim Washington is the best not just in this cycle. He's a great school board candidate. He's a career educator and administrator. He really is. How I first met him is he and his wife started when we were running up to the first Pride Festival here in Pasco County. Mom and dad hugs for gay kids at Pride who don't have family support. And they ended up getting a bunch of volunteers to come out to Pride and let me give you a hug shirts on. They didn't, attack anybody. It was very much about consent. But the point was his activism was on behalf of gay, trans, and lesbian kids. Right. When I met him 4 or 5 years ago, it's not a new thing for Jim. It's not a suit he's put on to run. This is who he is.
Who he is.
And the reason he's incensed about what's been happening is because he knows that what's happening out here leads to the bullying and the suicide attempts of those kids in school. And he's seen a lot of that. And I just can't say enough that if you want to get out for a candidate and make a statement about how angry you are at what's happening in school boards in Pasco or in Florida, give us a call. Let's get you with Jim. He's a fantastic candidate and we're very proud to support him.
Yeah, and he would be the only elected official throughout Pasco County, I would say, who will be overtly, not just subtly, but overtly pro-LGBTQ. He will be the only one that genuinely has the best interests of the queer community at heart, and we need everyone we could get for that.
And I want to make sure that I say this, like following basically, how do I know what Sam is saying is true? Is because I've challenged some of them that are erstwhile Democrats who have not stood up and said, yes, we should protect the rights of our gay citizens and our human rights ordinance. They'll stay and say, oh, we don't have that kind of problem here because they live in some sort of fucking
that's why
land.
I say subtly, because I feel like every single year that we're making endorsements in Pasco and I ask, my friends in the local queer community in Pasco, hey, who would you support? It's always like, well, that person's never said that they hate the gays.
Right.
And that's kind of where the bar has been. So I'm talking like someone who is aggressive out there. That's part of the program.
Yes.
That's mind-blowing for Pasco County. And it is so necessary because, again, there's just nothing like that.
I don't know who this guy is, but he says, sup, fam.
I actually thought he said soup, fam. And,
poop.
It's a good day for soup. It checked out.
It's a great day.
That's Corey Cottrell, who used to help me co-host this show and produce it and all that good stuff. So nice to see you, Corey. He's moving back to the neighborhood. I'm so excited. My buddy is moving back to town, so we're going to get to actually hang out instead of me having to drive to Miami.
There you go.
To visit. So that'll be cool. Yeah. What else we got?
What else we got? Well, we're still talking school boards, honestly. Some of the exciting news that happened was in Pinellas County. We had 2 school board races where we endorsed candidates, and they are going to runoffs. We have Brian Martin for District 6. He is going up against Stephanie Meyer, and Stephanie Meyer ran back in 2020. Yeah, well, she has the same name as the woman who wow, listen to me.
That's all right. We'll take it out in editing. We'll edit that.
No, we're going to edit it out. It's fine. She has the same name as the woman who wrote Twilight, which is very funny.
Oh, that's exactly why I already knew the name.
But
I've never read Twilight. It's fine.
You're not really missing much. But,
remember the movie? Okay, you ever seen the movie Aliens? It's a better love story than Twilight.
Sure.
Most love stories are better love stories
Right,
than Twilight.
right.
That's fine.
But as I was saying, so Stephanie Meyer ran back in 2020, and what's funny is a little baby Tampa Bay for change. There wasn't an org or anything. One of our big things that, in combination with Bianca Goolsby, who's a great local education advocate, and a couple others, we dug up that she was playing footsie with the local QAnon crowd, that she was very vibrantly racist, and she was kind of pitching herself as this very soft, inoffensive person, but then on the side was very clearly in league with sinister forces. And unfortunately, she's a little bit better at campaigning as something other than what she is this year. So she did pretty well, not quite 50%, but she did pretty well. And we need to rally behind Brian Martin pretty hard. And we also have Keisha Benson, I should say Dr. Keisha Benson, because I am not going to not acknowledge that when a person has worked that hard for a doctorate. And she is probably one of the most qualified people I've ever seen run for school board. She is wonderful.
Did she get her PhD in lesbian dance theory? Is that?
Oh my god!
Oh man,
Is
that's
that a
only
thing?
funny.
Is
if
that a
people
major
have
you can get?
context. Harrison,
Is that a
do you have the
major you can get?
context for that?
I do have the context. Somebody was talking about Biden funding lesbian
Yeah.
dance theory classes, which
Lauren
I mean,
Boebert was.
I'm
Yeah.
down. I'll take a class.
Which-
but like,
Yeah, I was
Right,
like, I don't see a
you're
problem.
saying that
with
like it's a bad
Everything
thing.
they say lately as an attack is just kind of cool. It sounds cool.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's wild.
Taco trucks on
it was
every
wild.
corner.
Right,
Okay.
right.
It's wild. I was actually at one of the forums that Dr. Benson was at when she was like not announcing her run, but it was like an open forum with all the school board candidates.
yeah.
There was at least one Moms for Liberty candidate, and
Oh, yeah.
I forgot
Dawn
what she was saying.
Peters.
Like,
Her name is Dawn Peters, and she is actually in the
Peters.
runoff with Keisha. So
Yeesh.
okay,
yeah,
that makes
we
sense.
have-
She might have been at the forum that she was saying like so many ridiculous things
Oh,
to be
yeah.
honest for a school board.
They all are, and that's the thing. We have two runoff campaigns now. Luckily, Keisha was in a three-way race with this primary, so there was another Democrat. I'm not even going to name him because, frankly, I'm annoyed that he ran and he knew better, Carl. But now that he's out of the race, we can do basic math and see that Keisha's probably got this. Obviously, we don't want to leave anything to chance. So again, if you want to volunteer, Brian Martin, Keisha Benson, those are our people and they need help. Even in Hillsborough, we have Karen Perez, who is a perfectly fine, more demo-line school board member. She's been on the board for a while. And there was a Moms for Liberty candidate that ran up on her, only got like 35, 36%. But I tell you what, in Hillsborough County, it shouldn't have been that close.
I mean, that means that means whatever platform they had sat with 35% of the county.
Correct.
That's how
Right.
I would look at it also.
Oh, yeah. And I
Right.
think there were 3 people in that race as well. That's still a big deal to get that much
Yeah.
of the vote. It shouldn't have been that tight. It should have been like a commanding, crushing win for us, Yeah, so pay attention to your school boards, guys, because that's definitely one of the main ways that they are coming at us and trying to take over. They're trying to take over the school boards, and they're
Right.
taking over a lot of them.
Yeah.
We've had really good service from our supervisor of elections, who is a Republican up here in Pasco County, and for a while now. And one of the things that worries me is that Brian Corley is going to retire, and some ham-fisted Trumper is going to end up running to be our supervisor of elections up here, and
Right.
that's I'm terrified of that. I don't know.
Isn't that a nonpartisan position?
Like,
he goes to the
technically,
Ronald Reagan
you would
dinner with
think
all the
it'd be
other
a
Technically,
sycophants every
most
year.
of these are technically, but
Yeah.
that
Would
that
think.
never fucking happens.
Well, I know who he pals around with, and it's the usual suspects that go
Right.
to the Ronald Reagan dinner and think that that's a good thing. So I just I worry about him leaving that office and what will happen to it next. We'd be extraordinarily lucky if it was somebody like Mike Fasano, who, even though he has an interesting history as a state legislator, has turned out to be sort of the Liz Cheney of Pasco County. He really
Well, that's a
listen.
good thing.
No, I
Is
just
that a good thing
mean
to
that
call someone?
he's called his own party out.
I
over the past-
understand. I understand what you mean. It's
Can we talk about that for a second? I'm tired of people like saying Liz Cheney's such a hero. Liz Cheney.
Oh no, yeah, no, I don't think that at all.
That's an aside, but I mean like you don't have to celebrate it in general. Any
No,
GOP member,
she had her
It's
Right.
5
It's
minutes.
like
Listen,
that tweet. It's like you actually do not have to hand it to them.
because you can look at who she voted with half the time, and most of the time it was Trump anyway. So
95% of the time.
93%.
yeah,
Yeah, that's like a lot
93%.
more
Yeah.
than half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I don't know what she
and
was fighting for. Anyways,
it's interesting to me now to hear Republicans saying they don't think she has a lane. They don't think she has a way to become the nominee for the Republicans, and that's
Of course not.
okay. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So let's talk for just a minute about how Joe Biden could guarantee at this point, like nail in the coffin, guarantee a House and Senate victory in the November elections. What do you guys?
Weed.
Weed.
Oh,
It's weed, man.
weed.
Weed
John
among
Fetterman-
a few other things.
What are your sources for this?
John
I'm interested.
Fetterman is out with a big statement today. Fetterman calls on Biden to deschedule marijuana ahead of his Pittsburgh visit. Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman on Monday called for President Joe Biden to use his existing authority to deschedule marijuana from his classification as a Schedule I drug and work to decriminalize marijuana. Quote, "It's long past time that we finally decriminalize marijuana," said Fetterman. The president needs to use his executive authority to begin descheduling marijuana. I would love to see him do it prior to his visit in Pittsburgh. This is just common sense, and Pennsylvanians overwhelmingly support decriminalizing marijuana. I want to make sure that I get, decriminalization and legalization are not the same thing. Lots of activist people, myself included, feel like decrim is sort of a half step. And let me give you, for instance, the city of Port Richey, little tiny Port Richey, where I ran for mayor, decriminalized cannabis 4 years ago. The problem is that's discretionary at any time. They can take that back. It's not. It's when I talked to the former chief, Gerald DeCanio, I asked him, "What are the circumstances under which you would arrest somebody for cannabis?" Because it's discretionary to the officer, not just to the department. And he said, "Well, if you were smoking marijuana and kicking a baby, we would, we would also charge you with the marijuana charge, not just the kicking a baby charge." And I got the joke
Weird
of
thing.
that, but at the same
That was
time,
oddly
like,
specific.
Very
every
specific
officer
thing
is
to
going to have a different threshold for that, right? What one officer might think if you're just being a dick and you have marijuana, you know what? So decriminalization is the other thing is it's cumulative. If you get popped for a ticket for having pot in Port Richey the first time, it's a fine. Second time is a much bigger fine. Third time, you are going to jail. They're going to recommend jail time for you. So that's not legalization. And I want to make sure that we understand there is a difference there. And when we're talking about the two things, legalization means you, I, or anybody else could, within whatever the bounds of the law are, grow it in our backyard, walk down the street and smoke it. That's legalization. But what Fetterman is calling for is at least the deschedule. It's in the same narcotic category as heroin and methamphetamine. And frankly, it doesn't belong there. It's a ridiculous thing that it was ever there. Millions of Americans have suffered real costs to their lives, their livelihoods. They've custody of their children, jobs.
Specify what kind of Americans, Greg.
Oh, African Americans and Black and brown Americans much more heavily than anybody else.
And
While
indigenous
white people are making millions of dollars running dispensaries now, people that were doing that 25 years ago are still in jail. So this is where we are. But I do think that if Biden stepped out on this issue and made a speech on Thursday night about fighting for the soul of America, which is what they say he's going to be speaking about, descheduling, saying he's going to deschedule cannabis. I got to tell you, I think you guys should see a lot more, people under 35, under 45. Shit, I'm 58. I've been waiting for legalization since Jimmy Carter. Right. So it's well past time. And if even middle-aged shitheads like me and John Fetterman think this is a good idea, then everybody younger than us probably will too.
Well,
and he needs those
we
votes.
have a young person.
Yeah.
Young person,
Hi.
what do you think?
Young person thinks that decriminalization is not necessarily enough in all areas, because we got to look at why stuff like weed was illegalized in the first place, which was to target Black and brown Americans. So
Right.
if you're decriminalizing it and not legalizing it, you're still leaving it up to the discretion of police departments, who famously are not going to be as lenient with Black and brown Americans. So it just
Provably
needs
so.
to be
It's not like we're just
provably.
imagining that.
Provably, especially here. And it's like,
Yeah.
it needs to be legalized, I think, because if you just decriminalize it, it's still going to serve some people more and or less than others. You know what I'm saying? Also, I'm going to be honest, this is not a fully fleshed out thought, but this kind of a baby thought
Okay.
is that
It's not a fully fleshed out show.
perhaps one of the
It's true. Look, I don't even have a switch cover on my my light switch. It's clearly not fully fleshed out.
no, but perhaps one of the best things that Biden could do if he wants to guarantee a blue House and Senate is not run next term. I'm sorry.
You know,
mean-
he said before the election that he would not run for a second term.
I
I heard there
agree
was
with
like
that.
this,
To be
he's
honest,
doing this, and then he's not doing this, and it's like I just don't know because like it's it's like a bipartisan, I guess,
Yeah.
thing where it's like not everybody is so confident in him running in a second term, and I'm like, well, yeah, because centrism doesn't work, you know, like.
Oh,
I
okay.
hate saying that. But
Okay. I
that's a
understand.
conversation.
I want to make sure you know that I understand and value this take. However, how centrist is he though?
extreme.
It's the most progressive
Enough to say that
platform
he
since
is, I'm a
it's
Yeah,
the
but-
most
but-
progressive platform since FDR, and he's getting shit done
as-
from that platform.
The progressiveness, though, is just a matter of relativity based on where we are. Just the
Relative to
moderate-
FDR, he's pretty much
relative
Yeah.
to the average
Okay.
Democrat now. That's just a party thing. That's just where we are in 2022. We don't need to give him.
and
that
he's
much.
getting that stuff
Yeah.
done. It's like
And I
FDR,
mean,
FDR was a virulent racist that sent Jewish refugees back to Nazi Germany. So let's cool it on the having him as this very,
Yeah.
very amazing high bar.
okay,
honestly.
okay.
and I mean, also even to the point of FDR, it's like there was one point at one of Joe Biden's speeches where he said flat out, "I am a capitalist." Like, I am a, and I was like listening to that over and over, and I was like, "What?" Like, it just didn't make sense to me, and it was like, there's so much more, especially on the capital side, especially with like student loans, that could be done right now. And I'm just like, well, why isn't more being done? Oh, because he's a capitalist. He said so himself. You know what I'm saying? And even like just the centrist rhetoric, I don't know if you can necessarily.
He did say
be a
Mitch
president
McConnell
for
was a pretty okay guy today.
Mitch McConnell is not an okay guy. Ever.
Today, he
That's what
said
I'm saying.
that
You can't be a president for Democrats and then also be a president for people who want certain
But you're
Democrats
not.
dead. You know what I'm saying?
You're not
It-
president for Democrats. You're president for all Americans.
right.
Yeah, but that
He
means
has to
you're president
walk
for
that
both
line.
people, and it's like just I don't know if that kind of balance can work.
Well, okay.
and
he's
part of that's probably because I have no space for that kind of stuff anyway. But-
And neither do I. And it, like, you know, he is the age literally of my parents and grandparents, right? Or he's the age of my parents anyway, who had very different views about those things. You know, my father had no problem identifying himself as a capitalist because to him, that was a route out of poverty as a farm kid. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I get why he would say that, but I also am watching him take some pretty good swings at capitalism here. And I'm not sure
Mhm.
he's done on the student debt relief thing.
Hmm.
Like, this is what he could do right now.
Yeah.
Once we get through November and the midterms, if the House and the Senate look different, I think we see him do a lot more. I think we may see him do more in the run up to that because he realizes that that action is galvanizing voters to get out. You know, he called them semi-fascists yesterday. No one else has done that at that level. You know,
What is a semi-fascist?
I
though?
know, I get it. They're,
Yeah.
No, they're fucking fascists. I get it. But
How are
he
you
said it
50%?
out loud, and now, you know, for this is the party that calls us all communists and Marxists
Right.
and violent revolutionaries and Antifa, and oh my god, and they're going to get offended because the president kind of called them out, half called them out on their fascism. Should he have fully called them out? I think he should have, and I think he probably will because he's learning as he goes. I think he's a
But you're
better
the
president.
president. Is there any space to learn as you go when you're the literal president?
Ooh.
Yes.
You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
there is. There absolutely is.
Well,
because Obama could
I
have
mean-
stopped dropping drones on people anytime he wanted. You know, but he didn't learn that he didn't have to
Right.
do that.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
thought that was stuff you should
Absolutely
just, kind of
right.
just know before going in office. I don't know. Like that should
I
be
don't know.
Yeah. Well, because the thing is, liberals who get elected to office always have this thing where they pick like one or two things. They're like, all right, I'm going to get the Republican support by just being horrible in these two ways. And Obama's like, immigration and drone strikes. If I just blow the shit out of everyone, they're gonna get off my ass. And it just kind of never works.
It didn't work.
Right.
so
It literally can't.
I've been thinking about Joe Biden's 8 years as the vice president and his long career in the House and Senate before that. And I'm thinking there were a lot of things that he learned during the Obama administration that he may have had opinions about before he got there and while he was the vice president that have informed what he's done in his first 2 years as president. Like, there are things that he's adjusted. And I'm sure some of the people that surround him are maybe some of the people that learn lessons who are also part of the Obama administration or peripherally involved in that group of political minds and activists. So I'm just not, I'm not convinced he's not a really great president yet. I think at 2 years in, his approval is higher than anybody in the last 40 years. His approval is higher than Reagan's was at this point in Reagan's first term.
Well,
am I super happy with everything he's doing? No, I'm not. But, first of all, consider what the alternative might have been. And second of all, who could we have elected president that would have gotten this much done with the House and Senate so nearly evenly split? I think he's done a pretty remarkable job. I don't know. But should he run again? I don't know.
Run again.
Yeah, I
think that we can say, yeah, he's been perfectly fine. I mean, personally, I still see him as a C- president at best, which, is fine. It's a passing grade.
We're not grading on a curve here because
no, because I think it's disingenuous. Like, he's still the fucking president, and we can still hold him accountable without just saying, well, it could be Trump. It could be Trump. I know it could have been Trump.
Yeah.
I still want him to be better, and I think that's fair. But all the polling that I've seen shows that most Democrats, whether they like what he's doing or not, don't want him to run. And again, that's fair. He is not popular. His popularity, even now as it's picking up, is still pretty low. He's not necessarily getting the credit for the things that he's doing. He himself has said that he really shouldn't be president for another term. He's made a convincing argument himself.
What's the reasons that people are saying? Because I know a lot of it is because of age, acuity, etc. What's the top one now? It's age. Okay.
It's age. I mean, among other things, but I think that's fair.
I wanted to make sure, because on the topic of age, I was also thinking about the House. I think Pelosi just no.
Agreed.
Because I was thinking
she's in her 80s.
So heavily about the 28th district in Texas. Are you familiar with Jessica Cisneros? So,
Pelosi we pitched about that race on the show.
Yeah, Pelosi endorsed the opponent, who is one of the only, if not the only, pro-life Democrat. And I'm like,
right,
how are you gonna do that? And then also talk about how people's rights are in danger. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
She was at events where she was speaking about this stuff, and I'm like, you have this on your back. Why are you not talking about it?
And it was right after Roe v. Wade got struck down too. So
exactly. And she also sent me 30 texts. Can you donate $15, please?
And reminder that I'm a Democrat in a state that the Democratic Party didn't support raising the minimum wage to $15. I can't imagine that world either, but here we are. Why? Because underqualified, overaged, wealthy Democrats decided what the platform was going to be. Was it you? Somebody was calling them brunch Democrats last year, and I thought that's pretty damn appropriate. But can we agree at least that if Joe Biden is not going to run for re-election, that he should shut the fuck up about it till after the midterms? I don't think this is something he should, because I think all the enthusiasm that we're seeing build here just gets instantly deflated and thrown into a ditch.
Leaning into what Harrison's been saying, I think that there could be a lot of enthusiasm for okay, I'm doing all these, I'm finally starting to do some of the things that you wanted me to do. You're starting to like it. People are having good feelings. And I'm going to actually be the person I promised to be. I'm going to be a transition president.
Transitional president.
I am
but it's 50% into the term, though.
I'm actually going to make things a little bit better, and then I'm going to hand the baton down. I think that would be exciting. Whoever wins that election.
So many choices.
I'm not saying there's great choices for that, but I do think that is energizing, because that is not the expected move. I think that the expected move is more crony-esque and
same as it ever was,
and a person like gripping the power, and I think that it would be very much like a sea change moment to actually have him say like, no, I should not run again. I should pass what I've learned and just kind of focus on putting out the fires and patching up the house. I think that'd be a really big deal. I think that would get people like, Harrison and Harrison's generation to maybe not see him as full of shit, not see the system necessarily being full of shit.
All right.
Would you agree with me, young person?
The young person agrees.
I don't mean to tokenize you on that. It's just, people are constantly talking about the youth, and we have a
No, I
young
get it.
organizer. Yeah.
Yeah. In that case, and even speaking of youth, Maxwell Frost. Let's talk about that also.
Right.
Which
In
part of
Orlando.
Maxwell Frost? He's having a very
All of it.
eventful week.
But especially the age piece too. I mean, I think so. I'm gonna compare Maxwell Frost to like Ken Russell for a minute, because Maxwell Frost's outreach had way better outreach to Gen Z because he was Gen Z. I think Ken Russell just tried too hard with TikTok. Maxwell Frost, I don't even know of one TikTok video or like a trend or whatever. It's wild, okay? And people are like scrambling to figure out how to like best appeal to young voters, and the first suggestion is always like, I'm gonna make a YouTube channel or a TikTok thing. And it's like, that's not what's gonna work, because then you run into people who are like, I'm gonna vote for Ken Russell, and they don't even live in Miami. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, we've run
Somebody
into
else
a lot
told
of-
us they'd seen that too.
Yeah, and like,
I think Sam said he was running into people up here. They're like, I can't wait to
I
vote
did.
for Ken Russell.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
That's even what I was
Harrison
talking
and
about,
I ran into a lot of young people that were like, "Oh my god, Ken Russell," and it was like, "Hey, are you
That's
registering
do
in
you
Miami?"
live in Miami?
Right.
yeah, I think maybe just one of my theories around this is that people want to be AOC so bad. AOC doesn't even have TikTok, but she's
Well, they
good
want
with
to be
social
AOC
media. She's
without the AOC.
yeah, and it's like
They don't
there's
wanna
only
do the hard
one
stuff.
on the planet. But I mean, like ever since like a younger, congressperson who is like good with social media got into the office, everybody's just trying to recreate that, because it's like, oh, I'm gonna get in office that way, and it's like it doesn't
It's
work.
not. Yeah, that's not how it works.
Because you still have to look at the demographics of your district, the people who are voting for you, and not just the whole country, because you're
Right.
still in the primary, dude. And that's honestly, I think, a large part of why he lost.
No, think about how special it is that John Fetterman is doing as well in Pennsylvania as he is out here in the rest of the world,
Right.
where we're watching him masterfully troll everybody, not just Dr. Oz, but everybody. This is a thing that used to happen with our local friend Brandy Goyette, where everybody that was running for anything up here, had to mention her because they all thought they were running against Brandy Goyette, even if they weren't. It was like she took up so much space that you couldn't avoid trying to hammer at her, even though that's not who you're running against. Yep. So we're looking down the road. We're after the midterms. We're in a period of really great job growth and more college debt relief. Marijuana's on its way to being descheduled and legalized. Who's your dream candidate in 24?
Oh,
I have an absolute solid favorite, and I don't care what anybody thinks about
You
it.
have a
Bobby Lashley.
solid
I will not even argue about it because I'm right.
Who?
AOC.
I was going to
Really?
say AOC. I was waiting
She will
for
be old
somebody else
enough.
to say it. I was
Yeah,
waiting for somebody else to say it.
1,000%.
I'm so
I
glad
think
you said
that it takes enormous charisma to pull this off, to be young and taken seriously in the race. I think Pete Buttigieg is going to eviscerate anybody he debates, but I think he might be too centrist to do this move that we're talking
He
about.
constantly comes in like third and fourth, if not lower, in polling of theoretical candidates.
Right. Yeah. But he is
They're
like
trying
in
so
a
hard to
debate.
make Pete happen. They want to make Kamala happen, and neither one of them is going to happen.
Honestly, I'm not excited about Kamala Harris in any way. But AOC runs, I think that would be as electrifying a thing as when Barack Obama ran.
I agree. Yeah, I really do. I think also part of why I agree is just because, like, a large part of, at least from what I'm gathering, a large part of what Biden does is like meeting people in the middle. You can't necessarily do that with like a white supremacist neo-Nazi or whatever. I think AOC, if she were to run, she would make an effort to like reach out to people and not necessarily meet them where they're at, because she made this point that like red states aren't Republican states, they are more suppressed states. So I think that she would be like really great with breaking through to that part instead of just saying, I'm going to be unifying Soul Nation, whatever. I think she would actually like be very good for that kind of outreach.
So Sam did not express a dream candidate for 24.
Well, I don't know that I necessarily have one. I'm interested in AOC. I don't know that she would win, and I think there'd be a lot moving against her, which isn't necessarily me saying don't do that. I mean, Bernie, I really hope doesn't run,
No,
and
please
Liz
don't.
is going to be too old, and I think that they did too much damage to each other last time.
How much
You know,
fighting?
Sherrod Brown, I'm always kind of interested in. Honestly, Fetterman's kind of having a moment, but we need him in the Senate.
Yeah, right. He's going to be in the Senate, so that's
Right.
kind of a no-go. I know there's an argument that AOC takes another, takes a run for one of the New York Senate seats and does that for a term, and then we see, because that was kind of the Obama path to the seriousness of that office. But she showed out a lot earlier than Obama did. Like, he really didn't show out as a House member until the convention speech. Right, nationally, he had no eye line until then. She does, and she's had it for a while now. I will never let anybody forget that the reason the New York AG is having what looks to be a successful civil case against Donald Trump is because when they got Michael Cohen to testify before the House, it was AOC that asked the 3 questions about insurance valuations, appraisal valuations, and whatever the third thing was. But she had those 3 questions lasered in and broke it wide open. Like, no, I don't know if she was coached to do that, if somebody gave her opportunity to have that moment, but she's had an eye line since 6 months after she was elected for going directly at Donald Trump from the House floor. I don't know, man. I think
and I think she's also very thoughtful of, like, not just getting rid of Trump, but also making sure that
the dog wanted to be
the system or systems that created Trump to be president are, like, addressed.
Right.
Yes.
I think that's gonna work in her favor a lot, because she's not. I don't know if she's necessarily, like.
Here he
she is definitely, like, anti some. Oh, hey, Sagan.
This is my dream candidate for president. This is Sagan Ellis.
I think he might have some disqualifying problems. Number one, he's not old
think
enough.
You are being really judgmental and you're showing your bias.
Right? I mean, if you do, like, one of those ink paw signatures.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I tell you who would be interesting to me, and I know that as I'm saying, AOC, is she too controversial, is Cori Bush. I love Cori Bush. I think Cori Bush would be an absolute galvanizing badass. And I think if you're going to go with someone controversial, you got to get someone who is just, like, gonna grab you by the fucking throat. I'm seeing a lot of interesting tweets lately, which I feel stupid saying that as a sentence, but here we are in 2022. I'm seeing a lot of interesting tweets on, like, leftist Twitter spaces about how Fetterman and the way he's kind of just schooling the hell out of Oz right now is a sign that Bernie would have been able to handle Trump. Now, I think what they're saying is that having someone who's a little bit more rough and tumble, a little bit more blue collar, just playing around with a phony billionaire, out of touch rich person and kind of just, like, showing them for what they are could actually be a really effective strategy. Do I think that Bernie would have won? Yeah, I'm just not going to talk about it because I can already see the comment section ruin a little bit against Bernie. But I think that it's an interesting idea to just kind of put up someone who's been, I don't know, a waitress or a bartender in recent memory, someone who's been tear gassed or shot at by rubber bullets, somebody that can be like, no, motherfucker, there's some important shit going on here.
Yeah.
And
somebody brought up Stacey Abrams, somebody who was once refused entry to the governor's mansion, even though she'd been invited there because her family was black and arrived on the bus.
Yeah.
I think she's got a lot to say about that.
Right.
And
I definitely think that if we're going to be going for a bold candidate, it's got to be a woman of color too. I mentioned Sherrod Brown earlier, but he's a middle-aged white guy, and I don't want that. I don't want to see that. I would love Cori Bush. I would love AOC. I know Gavin Newsom wants to be, and that's a safe pick, but Jesus Christ.
See,
Gavin, I'm sorry.
Right. If my dad's thing, if you're gonna be a bear, be a grizzly bear, right? So if you're going to run a progressive, run a woman of color who is progressive and a firebrand and has that public eye and can stand up to it. And
Well,
you know
people
who
want
does that? Bartenders.
Well, it sounds weird to bring him up now, but Andrew Gillum's whole appeal and why he did so well in 2018 is because I would meet voters and they would say, like, at least he's giving me an actual option. I can tell that he actually has like different values than the
Contrast.
Republican. He's not trying to sell himself as a diet Republican, and so many Democrats, centrists, try to do that. And I've seen so many Republicans usually just say, yeah, no, they're full of shit. Like, why would I get the diet version if I can have the
Right.
full fat fascism?
Yeah,
Just
not
get the real
semi-fascism.
thing. Yeah, full fat fascism, as opposed to semi-fascism or 2%
50%.
fascism.
You
Yeah,
round up from 50, it's still 100.
Semi-fascism. Yeah.
oat fascism.
Yeah.
When you're
Well,
not
let's get, I think we give Biden 90 days and he'll be calling them actual fascists. That's
that would be
because I
nice.
think he can learn on the
I
job.
hope so.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I hope so.
Would be nice.
I mean, if he's not going to run again, you
Sure,
might as
no
well
one's
just like
fascism.
get out all the stuff. Now.
Yeah,
All right. Well, guess what? We did an hour again.
we did an hour.
Like it's a
We
real
didn't even
show.
get through all the primary results.
I know. Well,
We,
we got
didn't talk about the
time.
governor's race.
So, are you either of you
yeah.
out
Oh
for
my
any
God.
specific candidates right now, like working towards November? Is there anybody that you
No.
want to bring to the table
Listen,
here yet?
I voted. The only reason I voted for Nikki Fried was because I was going to vote for somebody, and I flipped a coin. Neither of those candidates were worth voting for. I just voted for somebody so people wouldn't complain. They should be insulted that I had to flip a coin to pick somebody. That is my thing.
Damn. Okay.
That's my little fire moment.
So I'm
I-
taking it you're not going to be volunteering for the Christ campaign.
No.
No. What if they
Neither
paid
one.
you?
How much?
Oh,
See?
he's al-
Because that would
There's
change
some-
my
Listen,
calculus too.
you gotta work in capital.
they can't
sometimes.
afford him. He's already being
If you
paid
give
much
me-
more by someone. I won't name who.
I am being paid
All right.
much more by
All right,
a very special somebody.
Yeah.
Good.
Because honestly, if they're going to be doing work with the Florida Democratic Party, listen, they offered me like a 45-hour work week at 15 an hour, which I mean, yes, but also I
Yeah.
wouldn't have a life. And then they were like, towards November, you're going to work 60 hours a week. No. I don't
Yeah,
want
I
to.
think I made more than that working for FOF in 2018. So
You
it's all
did.
to go
You
for
I don't
did.
think
themselves.
anything is worth, no election
Yeah.
is worth working 6 days, 10 hours a
Right.
day, 6 days
Oh
a
no,
week.
and I had a
So-
heart attack right in the middle of the cycle and had to hide out for a week and a half. So because I was afraid they'd let me go because I was sick, right? So my fellow organizer covered for me while I took a week on the couch.
Yeah.
But I went right back out there in the heat in July. So
Well,
never
yeah,
doing that again.
Harrison does bring up something interesting, and I know like it's been an hour, but yeah, real quick
It's
here.
fine.
One of the things that kind of went unsaid during the entire primary, which got weirdly ugly, Nikki Fried v. Charlie Crist, weirdly ugly, unnecessarily ugly, I think, is that every time they actually had a forum or any kind of article came out, like, what do they believe? What are their policies? Virtually fucking identical.
Right.
The same general platform, something new, something old, didn't matter. Same platform. It was the same platform. I'm sure there's supporters of both that are going to be up in arms if they hear me say that. Guys, they had the exact same platform. They just differed on rhetoric, essentially. Rhetoric and aesthetic.
I got mad about the her going after him as being a pro-lifer. I'm like,
You
how
should
do
be
you
mad
get it?
about a lot of things Nikki Fried did.
How do you get a 100% rating from narrow pro-choice if you're it was just nonsense because it's a position that he changed on, and I respect
Right.
that. I respect somebody moving forward in their life and seeing things
Sure.
differently 10 years, 20 years down the road than they did before. So
my thing with Charlie has always been that the flip-flopping is so overstated, and I think that it speaks a lot to people not having a sense of political education, not having a sense of the worldliness of the political compass. To have
how
been
brave
a
was it
moderate-
to leave the Republican Party?
To have been a
that's a
moderate
pretty
Yeah.
fucking thing.
Republican and become a centrist Democrat is like a sidestep. It's like me like backing up ever so slightly. Did I become a completely different person just now? No. Did I become a completely different person?
Yeah.
He says no. But
Second
yeah,
says yes.
really, the only things that he changed on were like, oh, maybe gay people are people. Maybe I'll be, less racist. It's
Right.
really not a huge sonic leap. He's still a capitalist. He's still very much like a centrist type. I mean, the party left him more than he left party. Charlie Crist has never made like a significant leap in terms of his political beliefs, good or bad. That's just what's going on, and that
Right. He
frankly,
reminds me. He reminds me in that way of my dad, and my dad is not still around. So this is maybe some romanticization of my father that
sure,
I think
sure,
he would have looked at what's happening now and gone, "What the fuck is wrong with these people?" and
right.
not been
Mm.
poisoned every night by Fox News. But I don't know that. But I see, like, I think my dad would have said, "We have gay people in our family. Fuck you for even saying that they don't belong or they don't, shouldn't have the same rights as you. What are you thinking?"
Yeah.
That may be me and not I don't know. My mom feels the same way. She feels like my dad would have modified on these things. And I see Charlie Crist like that, like baby steps, moving toward baby steps. But what I was happy to see was the day after, first of all, one of our candidates for governor conceded the election right away, the primary right away, and said,
Yeah.
all right, now we all row the boat for Charlie. And
Which I
that's a
didn't
good
think
thing.
she would do because she had said she would.
Well,
I'm glad she
right.
did.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we now have whether we all like this candidate or not, we have a solid candidate to try and unseat Ron DeSantis. What do
Yeah.
you think? He's got what percentage chance would you give Charlie Crist of beating Ron DeSantis in November?
Honestly, it's really hard to say. The polling that I've seen recently is very interesting. And, speaking, I can't go into the campaign that I'm personally working on right now too
Got
much.
it.
Got the Florida for Change logo right over here. But
I can change that.
yeah, but,
Okay, speak freely, Sam.
let's just be safe for a second.
Okay.
We've been talking primarily to independents and NPAs and people from, not the two main parties. And they're very much angry about reproductive health. They're angry about the environment. These are single issue voters. And pretty predominantly, they're leaning our way. And we're in a district that is very much an R advantage. It's very red. It's pretty affluent. It's pretty white. And they're angry and they're willing to vote against Ron DeSantis. It doesn't necessarily matter that they're doing well economically. And some of them are actually starting to finally feel, the housing crisis. So it's really a matter of can Ron convince them that that's not his fault, which I think is really interesting, right? Because a lot of the things that have been very bad about Ron DeSantis over the years, Democrats have had trouble making it stick because he's always able to say, well, it's actually this person's fault. It's that person's fault. It's the lockdown. It's the Democrats. It's Biden inflation. We got a couple things now, though, where he can't shift from it. He's literally said he'd get rid of abortion in the state of Florida.
Make him run on that.
Right. Joe Biden can't be blamed for the environment in the Pinellas County beaches. You can't blame him for that. If there's dead fish washing up alongside that house that you spent all that money for,
right?
Someone's got to be blamed.
Yep.
Someone's got to be blamed. Joe Biden.
So what percentage chance do you give Charlie Crist against Ron DeSantis?
Oh man, don't make me do that. Don't make me do that.
Be honest.
Are you as hopeless as you were 60 days ago?
I am. I'm not going to call it hope. I'm not going to call it hope. I am cautiously optimistic. I think that turnout was pretty good. I think that Charlie is the one that would come closer to doing it if it's going to be done. I think that if we're doing what we need to be doing down ballot, he might have a shot. If we can really make sure that people actually show up and vote, we might have a shot. If we make sure that people have voter literacy, we have a shot. I mean, it always comes down to that in Florida. It's the voter literacy.
Yeah.
All right. Harrison, how do you feel about it?
I'm going to give him a 50.1% chance.
Wow. That's more optimistic than I am. But you guys are talking to a lot more voters.
The only reason I'm being so hyper specific is because I honestly don't know. I'd like to have hope that DeSantis will be unseated. That's why I'm giving him the 0.1%. But also just part of it is I don't know if the outreach is there. Yeah. If we're talking about like what we were talking about with AOC, if we're trying to outreach to voters and like transform their voter literacy, transform their politics. I don't know if enough of that has been happening. I think maybe there's a bit too much of a reliance on, I used to be a Republican, so I still have this. And it's like, I don't know if that's going to be enough to get like, especially younger voters or especially marginalized voters. I don't know if that's going to be enough to really shift to them. I think, I mean, I'll obviously vote for Chris because he's not DeSantis. It's honestly it's that pathetic right now.
That's
I will not
t-shirt
volunteer.
right there. At least I'm not Ron.
Oh.
That's
I'm not Ron.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't think it's anything special.
Okay.
But if DeSantis does win, I mean, that I'm also kind of thinking about. You
Yeah.
know, I think I just because I feel like I'm trying to imagine like a storyline where DeSantis does win. I feel like people are going to be like, especially in the Democratic Party, like pointing fingers and blaming everybody, and like I've never thought in a
Right.
million years this would happen. The reason DeSantis became governor in the first place is because he took advantage of the oppressive system.
Mm.
He can do that now more as governor. So if
Right.
he wins, I don't know if I'll be surprised, which I know sounds kind of weird or whatever, but it's just oppression doing its job.
Yeah.
Is Chris going to be enough to fight that? I don't know.
Well,
So that's why I'm torn.
let's talk about that for a minute, since we're going over time anyway. So fuck it.
Sure.
Fuck Greg's dinner time, really, at this point. There's
I still
there's
gotta
one-
cook it, so I
No dinner for you.
there's a notable thing that happened this week that makes me a little more interested in Charlie and a little less like, oh God, Charlie Crist, that's the best we can do. He picked his lieutenant governor candidate basically the day after he won the primary, and that is Carla Hernandez. And her whole
I
background
do
is
like
she's
Carla Hernandez.
Carla Hernandez. She is a union organizer. She's a teacher. She's got a very dynamic background. She's Latina from South Florida. You know, there's a lot going on. I'm actually not sure how young she is, but she's younger than him. That's a big deal.
Right.
Even to be in your 30s or 40s is young in Florida politics. And I
Yeah.
think that it says to me that he is at least conscious of his own flaws with you, with me, with Greg, and that he's trying
Sure.
to counterbalance in a more engaging, interesting way than simply like, I'm going to get a Latina. You know, I'm getting a sense of like youth. I'm getting a sense of like a union organizer, that there is actual attention to the fact that she comes from labor, she comes from education. I'm interested in that. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
awareness that not only is she a Latina, she is also a school union organizer in a moment
Right.
when teachers and school personnel are feeling very attacked. You know, I think that was a pretty prescient choice. And I think he's
Yeah.
just going to, let her off the chain and let her go after all these horrible, anti-student, anti-learning,
Right.
anti-teacher things that are being said by the other side. So yeah, I think this is
Yeah.
okay. So where I am is I'm at 35%. And I have to be
Oh.
honest, the last time you were all sitting in my backyard around a fire, Sam, I was at 10%. You all depressed me so thoroughly that night that I was sure that neither
It was
Charlie
depressing.
or
Things are
or-
picking up.
So
Things are
I'm
looking
feeling
better.
better about it. I mean, we'll check back in 30 days and see where we
Yeah.
are then. Maybe Harrison will be all the way up to 50.3%. So
Maybe.
set-
That's going to take a
where we are.
lot. We'll see.
Listen, one of the really interesting things that I heard recently, I was watching a recent episode of the Majority Report, which is a leftist talk show, not unlike this one, if I may say so myself. And they were pointing out that, nobody this far out wins a presidential election. Nobody who's like the rising star, the darling of the right, actually ends up being the person.
Right. We've had early
out.
risers before.
And what
that
always happens is that person, sometimes it's a Marco Rubio or a Ted
say too
Cruz.
much.
Sometimes it's Michelle Bachmann. Yeah, they overreach, and no one is going harder and deeper and further than Ron DeSantis right now.
Yeah.
And it's possible that fucks him up, that it trips him, and we have
Or
to.
we find out that among the Mar-a-Lago documents is him selling secrets to, I don't know,
Sure.
Orban.
Yeah, but we can't rely on stuff like that. If we've learned anything,
No, of
we
course
can't
not.
rely on like them just
Doing fucked
breaking
up
the
shit.
law to get rid of
They're
them.
held
That won't
accountable
work.
for it.
But in terms of overreach, in terms of, again, like, how many times have we tried to knock him on something and said, well, that was the socialist, that was the deep state, that was Joe Biden, that was inflation. He's on record with some things that he just can't fucking fight. He tried to fight Disney. People feel weird about that shit. He killed the manatees. People feel weird about that shit.
He
And
tried to
is
fight
common.
Disney is such a weird sentence.
It
And
is.
the thing that gets me is that
We're in a
It's
weird
so wild.
time.
I don't want anybody to forget, though, that Disney had to be dragged into that fight. Disney
Yeah.
was already not doing things
Oh yeah, and
in
like,
that regard. Like they,
fuck Disney, sure.
yeah,
But
Yeah,
people like Disney.
right. I'm a
People that
huge
don't know
fan,
about
but so
Disney's
that's
business practices like Disney. So that is
Right.
a thing we can use. But most importantly is abortion. I truly think that there are a lot of white women in particular that have been voting Republican or, kind of flipping back and forth. And they just truly didn't think it was going to happen. And now that the thing is happening to them, and again, Ron DeSantis has promised, I'll get rid of abortion. He wants to get rid of it. He said it in no uncertain terms.
Right.
There's no walking that back. There's no blaming it on Joe Biden. It's just one of those things. He's actually commit to things. If we hold it against him properly, who knows what can
we
happen.
make him run on that. Let's make him run on that.
He has to. He has to. He has to be on the defense.
One of the most shocking things I learned in the last 5-6 years was how many white women voted for Donald Trump. It's like,
it's not shocking. Let me rephrase.
What?
If you're a person of color, that shit's not shocking.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's your black and brown friends. They're not surprised that white women are kind of fucking racist, and that's an issue.
Well, I will
also,
say, white women are the most protected class, other than white men. Like, you know what I mean? They're inside that circle of safety, protected by Blue Lives Matter and all that kind of thinking. They're who the cops show up to defend from the black person who's watering their own lawn. So I kind of get it now, but it was a shocking thing for me to see. Right. I thought better of white women than that.
I mean, to your point,
I've learned my lesson.
I mean, to your point of like white feminism rather. I've been turning a lot to like the works of like women of color and femmes of color, and it's like even the response to Trump getting elected at the Women's March, there were there was like a lot of black and brown women saying like, who is this for? You know what I mean? Were women of color safe at that event? Were trans women safe at that event? And there was a lot of people just like, I don't know. And even like in July, in downtown Tampa, there was a July 4th protest where one of the talking points was abortion. And like, I pull up there and like, it's a lot of white women. You know what I mean? And the two black femme speakers who were at the event were saying, white women, you're finally, waking up to the reality. You know what I'm saying? And like, because it's affecting you, now you're out here. But where were you like 10, 20 years ago? You know what I mean? I think that's something I like to keep in mind just with activism in general. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people who's late to the party, like not intentionally, but it's like there's no hurry to be at the party. Because it's not affecting.
Because the party wasn't affecting certain people. It's like I saw something recently. After Roe v. Wade fell, a lot of people started jokingly saying like, "Let's make sure all the men have to get vasectomies. Let's sterilize all the men." And
oh my god, I have so much to say about that.
Historians started pointing out like, no, they did that to black and brown people. That's not.
They did that on indigenous people.
It did happen.
As forced experimentation.
It did happen. The white people.
And I've only ever heard white cis men make the argument, and that makes me so fucking angry. Like. To say, I made this point before, but like, if you're gonna say all men should get vasectomies, there's never been a case where you are prosecuted for getting a vasectomy. You know what I'm saying? You can go in and get one if you want to right now. If you have a uterus, there is especially in Florida, there's a whole bunch of hoops you have to jump through. But if you want a vasectomy, to me, it feels like you're just flexing your privilege on people who cannot have the autonomy.
Similarly, I had a really visceral reaction to the Native American tribes can just open up abortion clinics, and the Native American activists were like,
what? We can do what?
What?
You're just gonna put that on?
Whoa, yeah. Right. Like it's our responsibility now. No,
we're talking about marginalized communities in America that go unnoticed and not thought about. You can't do much better.
We fixed that. They got casinos now. Just like we fixed racism when we elected Barack Obama, we fixed Native American problems.
The amount of people that I meet, and especially people in the Democratic Party that should know a lot better, and they're very proud of having gone to say, I don't know, FSU. People that think, well, they got the casinos, they got money. I'm like, well, first off, who is they? There's like there's like
a very small set of families, right? Yeah,
there were people across a whole continent. Massive continent. Like it's a lot more than the Seminoles, and they're not a monolith. Fuck.
Yeah. All right. Guess what? I really do have to go cook dinner.
I know. I was literally just thinking that. Damn. We're like 5 steps away from wherever we were going to end it on.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's good.
All right. So thank you. I want to say a special shout out to Lori Bersani, who has we've gained 50 new followers on the Twitter account since she started retweeting the stuff from So Local Pasco. So thank you, Lori, because you have an enormous following. It really helped us when you started yanking the chain and telling people to give us a follow. Appreciate that. Our Patreon supporters, some of whom are here now, thank you all for your generous support. We know it's not easy to do that right now. Dave Eichenberger, since you spoke up again, I would like to know if you've got time in the next week or two to come by the place and help me sort out a little audio gremlin that I'm chasing around the room here. It would be a big help to make sure that we can do this professionally. And again, thank you to our friend Kelly Smith, Realtor, and to the CJ and the amazing folks that are sponsoring our show. We really appreciate your support. It's making it possible for me to do this instead of, I don't know, running around in the heat, knocking on doors and getting, paid this much for it. I appreciate it. And it's made life very easy for me. So thank you guys. We appreciate it. That's all for Florida for Change. So Local Pasco. Harrison, thank you very much. I was so excited to see you at the party the other night to be able to ask you to come back on. You're a great addition to our regular rotating band of misfits, and we love you.
Thank you. Love
All
you
right.
too.
All right, that's going to do it. Thank you for watching So Local Live, and we'll be back Monday evening, 6 p.m. Monday is Labor Day. Sam, do we want to make an audible here and say, nah, let's not do a show Monday? Or
I mean, we could just move it to Tuesday, Sunday, Wednesday.
we could just show up on Monday and play all anti-fascist Woody Guthrie songs for an hour.
I might be in Tallahassee on Monday. There is a strike in Tallahassee with some of the unionizing Starbucks stores. Maybe, potentially. I don't know if I should have shared that. Fuck. But
shared what? We didn't hear anything.
Exactly.
But if you do hear anything.
But Labor Day, I mean, there's going to be some unionizing store somewhere that's going to be doing something. So I would encourage people to keep an eye out for that. And if you can come out to one and maybe support, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Love you very much. Join us maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, something like that. And what we always say around here, Harrison, you know what we say when we close the show, right?
I forgot.
Sasquatch is real.
Sasquatch is